and welcome back to Football Made Simple. Thomas Tuchel is officially a Chelsea manager, having been appointed this week. He has already taken charge of his first match, a goalless draw with Wolves, but having been in charge for less than 24 hours before that, he wouldn't have had enough time to instill his tactical philosophy that we have seen most recently with his PSG and Dortmund sides. But what exactly are these tactics, and what can Chelsea fans generally expect? In this video we take a look. Thomas Tuchel does have a track record of success, having won the DFB Pokal with Dortmund, Ligue 1 twice, the French Super Cup twice, the Coupe de France and Coupe de la Ligue once each. And he did have the strongest squad in France by some margin, but he also led PSG to a Champions League final, finally raising their level in European competition. He also has a reputation of working well with young players, such as Pulisic, Schürrle, Dembele and Weigl. This bodes well for the Blues, with a crop of promising young talent in their ranks. But what did he do tactically at his last two clubs, Dortmund and PSG? We do see a lot of overlap, but it should be noted, he is not a strict ideologue like Sarri or Bielsa, who play the same way no matter what, nor is he highly reactive such as Mourinho, who looks to adapt on a game-by-game basis. Instead, he is a good blend of both, having a strong philosophy, but willing to concede a few ideals to deal with special circumstances. We see this in his varying formations. At Dortmund, for example, he often switched between the 3-4-3, 3-1-4-2, 4-3-3, but most commonly opted for the 4-2-3-1. We saw similar variants in Paris, often switching between the 3-5-2, 4-2-3-1, 4-4-2, but most commonly the 4-3-3. And he likes his teams to control the game, and this shows in their possession stats, as in his last 4 full seasons, he has almost always averaged over 60% of the ball. And this begins in the build-up phases, often using positional play where the ball does the majority of the moving rather than runners with the ball. He prefers his keepers to at least be competent on the ball to start the play, although he doesn't place quite as much emphasis on a ball-playing keeper as, for example, a Guardiola. This is shown by Roman Bürki and Keylor Navas, who are both competent, but when under pressure tend to go long rather than engineer a solution. But once the keepers do go short, it is crucial for Tuchel to have at least one ball-playing centre-back to progress the ball into the next phase. This was Mats Hummels at Dortmund and Thiago Silva, who Tuchel will once have access to at PSG. And as with most possession-oriented sides, a metronome of a defensive midfielder is crucial to the team to help spread the play, which Weigl often did for Dortmund and subsequently Verratti for PSG. This could open the door for the re-emergence of Jorginho, as this is the name of his game. However, many teams are aware of the importance of the deep-lying playmaker, and they often man-mark them to try and counter this, which is why Tuchel often ideally has at least 2 men who can be the deep-lying playmaker. At Dortmund, Weigl often started alongside Gundogan and later Guerrero, who would be higher, and Gundogan could drop deeper to be the secondary pivot. Many managers would have dropped Weigl into the backline, but if Tuchel did this, then a forward would have been able to pick him up instead. So, by keeping Weigl higher, the opposition has to commit an extra midfielder if they wanted to press Gundogan, which created space for Mkhitaryan higher up to drift into the half space, so the opposition midfielder would have to make a choice. This could be similar at times at PSG, with Marquinhos starting as the deepest midfielder, and when he was occupied, Verratti off the left would drop deeper to help progress the ball higher. And if an opposition midfielder came deeper onto Verratti, this would free space between the lines for Mbappe or Neymar to get on the ball and then look to advance higher up the pitch. At Chelsea, Kovacic and Jorginho seem to be the perfect duo for these deep-lying playmaking roles. His third midfielder is usually a risk-taker, staying higher up to take advantage of the space between the lines, left by a potential high press. Kagawa and Castro performed these roles at Dortmund, whilst at PSG, Di Maria was often the most advanced central midfielder, particularly when Mbappe started on the right. But when he has the personnel, he could use the back 3 in the build-up to open up spaces higher up. At Dortmund, Piszczek would usually tuck in, which would allow Dembele space wide on the right to attack his fullback. At Chelsea, Azpilicueta could perform a similar role, as he is comfortable as the third centre-back. At PSG, this would be Marquinhos dropping deeper from defensive midfield, allowing Verratti to take up his preferred role here. This would also make space for Neymar particularly to drop into to see more of the ball. And higher up the pitch, Tuchel can also adapt the role of his fullbacks. At Dortmund, he was blessed with Guerrero, one of the best attacking fullbacks in the world who could invert or goal down the line, whilst Piszczek on the other side could attack but could also be more conservative. So, with Guerrero high, Marco Reus off the left could come into the half space to support the centre forward, and provide the extra option for progression through the centre, with his one-touch passing allowing him to go wide to Guerrero, or infield to Kagawa advancing from the midfield. From here, with the left side overload, if Dembele or Pulisic stayed wide, it forced the opposition's backline to remain spread, opening up spaces for runners in behind, as Reus, Aubameyang and the attacking midfielder were all happy to do. But we could also see the right winger tucking in, thus opening up space on the overlap for the fullback to receive the switch into the space. At PSG, in Di Maria, Neymar and Mbappe, he had 3 of the best wingers in the world, all of whom preferred to operate in more central areas. So, when Neymar started as the false 9, with Mbappe wide left, Di Maria was often the right winger. Bernat would always overlap as Mbappe cut in, and Di Maria also cut in deeper to assist the midfield. So, Meunier or Alves, both highly attacking fullbacks, would start to provide the width. Again, this spread the backline, making spaces for potential runs between the defenders. Reece James at Chelsea, another attacking fullback, would be happy to do this. Kai Havertz could also reprise his false 9 role in a few select matches. But Tuchel also often played with a reference point, like Cavani or Icardi. This meant that Mbappe would start wide right, where he was more likely to attack on the outside rather than cut in early. Thilo Kehrer and be more conservative rather than overlap. In these scenarios, Di Maria would be responsible for the creation in this area, whilst Neymar would drift around the pitch, but usually into the left half space, and use his individual skill to make the difference. And on the defensive end of things, Tuchel is still very much a high-tempo front-foot manager. In fact, his attackers are usually the first line of defense, and being in such close proximity in the central areas when attacking means they can easily surround a man when there's a turnover, which often sees them win the ball back high up and then look to counter-attack. In fact, in his last 4 full seasons, his passes per defensive action have never gone above 8, which goes to show this. Thomas Tuchel should give Chelsea fans plenty of optimism as one of the best managers in Europe. He is, however, notoriously difficult to work with, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on with Abramovich. This is, of course, just a summary of what he's done in the past, and some Chelsea players who could potentially fill in those roles. But I want to know down below how you think he'll do, and any players you think will excel under him. Leave a thumbs up somewhere in your comment so I can get to it first. And if you want even more content, whilst helping to support the channel, consider checking out my Patreon at patreon.com/footballmadesimple. You'll get early access to videos, exclusive videos, as well as access to the upcoming FMS video podcast. And a special thanks to Liam Costa, Trudy, and Matthew for helping to support Football Made Simple on Patreon. But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.